Welcome back, my friends, to another episode of TFT Hyperroll from Mission for Tuition. Please remember, like, comment, subscribe, do all of this stuff to help the YouTube algorithm, and you know why. I want to get right into this because I did this build once before and said, please don't try to force this. And of course, a bunch of people tried to force it and then complained that it didn't work. It works, but you can't force it. You have to look for signs from Riot that tells you, yeah, go for it this time. So I want to show it again and show that it does actually work, but you need the right signs. Now, out of the NPC round, I got a NUNU and 2 Swiftshots. I then decided to just go with true 2s and see what the game had to say, and boom, I get a 2-star Sejuani right off the bat. I decide to put her out, along with the NUNU and an Ashe, and let's test Swiftshot Cavalier again. And look, I'll be the first to admit that Swiftshot Bruisers with Astral is much easier to force and to build, but the concept remains the same. You're creating a strong front line to hold everything in place, and then a back line that can take them out. I've picked up a Twitch and plan to get him into the game as soon as possible. Twitch will, of course, tick the guild buff, which will give the entire team more attack speed and also increase the health bonus that they're getting from having Sejuani on the team. This extra synergy is something I still like about this build, but again, only when the augments, the champions, and the items allow. Otherwise, it does tend to fall off because it doesn't necessarily scale, and if you don't get all of your Cavaliers, you're going to be in trouble because your front line will get weak. Here, I go ahead and choose the sword because I don't have good damage items yet, even though putting a Warmogs on NUNU would be great. Getting myself a gold Sejuani will make me feel a lot better about this comp, but I'm ultimately going to need the other Cavaliers to make this really work, and hopefully an augment that will help the build along. So far, I've only really gone by champions, having gotten an early NUNU. Our next set of augments is not exactly what I'm looking for. There's nothing here that's going to help. Ultimately, I'm going to take Weak Spot because that's good for Swiftshots. If they can do more damage, that will help things go down faster and the Cavaliers won't have to hold them up as long. I did manage to find a Lilia, so I now have 3 Cavaliers and they are getting much tankier. Although I would love to ultimately get that NUNU up stronger, I added a little extra health to Sejuani since she is at 3 stars. The NPC round gave me a bunch of new toys, so I go ahead and make the Warmogs on Sejuani, since that will give her even more health on top of the health she's getting as just being part of guild and being up at 3 stars. I'll save you the rolling, but I silvered up my Lilia and added a Rage Blade onto Varus, as that is just an excellent item for him. The faster he can attack, the more often he can ult, and his ult will hold things in place that can be easily destroyed. I held back on rolling any more at this point because my 1s and 2s are pretty much exactly where I want them. I don't need to get a gold Twitch or Ezreal. If it happens, that's great, but I'd rather save my rolls until I get into stage 7 and have a better chance at 3s. I'm going to want hopefully more NUNUs and obviously more Varuses and a good shot at a Xayah. For my final augment, I'm going to go ahead and take Sunfire Board. I don't have a Sunfire Cape that it's going to conflict with, and so this will make them weaker up front, and I can then attack them. I get Ashe out so that we now have our 4 Swiftshots. And I'll save you all the rolling, but you'll notice that Ashe has now transformed into Xayah. Because I was able to find a Xayah, I put the Infinity Edge on, which is one of my favorite items for her, because her attacks are just devastating. And you can see that even at 1 star, she is in control of the team. It's now Treasure Dragon time, and at this point I'm looking for stuff that will ultimately enhance Xayah. I'd love a way to speed up her attacks, so something like a Rage Blade is what I'm really looking for. That will give it to me because I can take the recursive bow, put it on the needlessly large rod. I also pick up a second 2-star NUNU, so I'm looking forward to maybe getting him up to 3 stars, but this will significantly increase Xayah's power, and I can put the Ionic Spark onto our giant tank. And I will spare you the 1 minute of rolling that went into it, but as you can see, NUNU is now also 3 stars, as we got a whole slew of them, and I also have Hecarim waiting on the bench, so I will be able to get to 4 Cavaliers. But this team, even as it stands right now, is really, really strong. If I can get the 2-star Xayah, I feel like it just puts it away. And although at this point I was pretty much guaranteed a top 4 finish, this NPC round really sealed everything for me because I got a magnetic remover that meant I could move those items from Sejuani over to NUNU. And a 3-star NUNU with a Warmogs, well, that's not something you want to run into. I go ahead and grab the Titan's Resolve as an item that I can ultimately put onto Varus to just make him stronger. He's still not 2 stars yet, but I'm fairly confident I'm going to be able to get him there, as I only need to find 1 in these last set of rounds. And as I am sure you know, NUNU's damage will be increased significantly because he's going to have more health than almost any target he matches, so that's why he's just gobbling things down like Tic Tacs. As you can see, this front line has become almost impossible to get to, and even when they do, NUNU just chows them down. Xayah is ultimately going to clean this whole thing up, but the damage is split pretty evenly between NUNU and Xayah. They make a fantastic team in this combination, and it's enough to bring us into the top 4. For the final item shop, there's nothing that jumps out as an absolute must-have. I decide to go ahead and go with the Giant Slayer, since now I have a 2-star Varus. I can put the Zeke's Herald onto Bard and speed up both Xayah and Varus, and then give Varus the Giant Slayer, taking some of the burden off of Xayah. Our first competitor is an Astral Mage trainer team, which is going to be very difficult to get through. They have a lot of ways to do damage, from Zoe in the corner to their incredibly strong Varus, who has some excellent items, although not perfect, as you know from my Astral Bruiser Swiftshot build. But it is enough to get through us right now until we can figure out a way around it. Since you now can know definitively who you are going to face in the next fight, it's important to look. I noticed that they are stacked all the way to the right, so I want my strongest Swiftshot stacked left, so she can get as much attack speed as possible. I'm also going to pull my Cavaliers over to hold them in place further away from Xayah. Fortunately or unfortunately, we are facing their ghost, which means their Namzi is actually now just a little teeny tiny Namzi that's easy to take down. So it doesn't give us a really good idea of how we would have done against this team if we had faced the actual player. It was much easier to get through. Now, since we're sitting at 6 health, we're 1 hit out unless we put a Soraka on the team. At 1 star, she will heal us for 1 health, which will make it impossible for them to take us out in 1 round, so we get at least 2 bites of this apple. They are up at 8, so we're going to need to beat them twice within the next 2 rounds. I'm also hoping that the additional healing that Soraka will add to the team will keep them up a little bit longer, and the new positioning for Xayah will help her do more damage to the targets that were doing the most damage to us. Their Bard ultimately covers our Cavaliers, which allows Xayah to just continue doing damage. Soraka gets a critical heal off, and it allows us to win. And as you can see, the player we're against is a little surprised at the power that Xayah has. And I can't say I disagree, 13,000 is a lot of damage for 1 round. And thanks to Soraka, we are no longer in danger of going out this round, but they certainly are. I'm trying a slightly different position on Xayah, just in case they adjusted in order to try and stop her. Their Bard gets the ult off perfectly and takes my damage down for a critical moment.
but it doesn't really matter. Xayah's able to throw out so many feathers, and when she pulls them back, the team's destroyed, and with over 11,000 damage, Xayah finishes it off and leads to the victory. This build does work, but you have to be careful with it. Hope you enjoyed the video and have an absolutely awesome day.